I'm now joined by tax expert Abiodun Akande, who joins me in the studio to talk more about this particular tax reform by the federal government to make sure that, of course, Nigerian tax is, some say, is long overdue. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, viewers.
Yeah, so let's just look at what the issues, of course, are in terms of what this bill is meant to address. Experts say this tax reform could address long-standing disparities in reserves, allocating with far-reaching implications, for Nigeria's economic growth and national development. And you now know what exactly are we looking at in terms of this tax bill reforms.
Okay, thank you for having me this morning. I clearly, before answering your question, it is clear that we put on the table clearly what a good tax system should address, and we call it the canon of taxation. A good tax system should be equitable, it should be fair, it should be transparent, it should be simple, it should be certain. The ease of administration and all of that. So any tax system that fails to address these issues obviously is not a good tax system. And now to your question, I've gone through the bill, the proposed reform, and in fairness, I think the bill is apt. It's a bill that is long overdue to address most of the challenges we have with the Nigerian tax system as is currently operated today. It will address the disparity in the sharing formula of revenue as generated that favors productivity and where activity takes place, and then again taking a little from the federal government and giving to the state and local government to make funds available for them to carry out developmental ideas and objectives as spelled out in their budget.
So I want us to look at a whole lot of things in this budget. First of all, I want us to start with the revenue VAT sharing formula, which of course has also caused some controversies. Now, if this bill is passed, what it simply means is that what the states usually used to get, which is 50%, will now become 55%. Okay. Now, the federal government in itself will now have to shrink down from 15 to 10%. To 10%. Yeah. The local government formula still remains the same. But help us understand what that simply means. Does it mean that the federal government is now taking less, but does it not mean that the burden is now on the states? But just help us unpack that scenario. Okay.
The truth is that the federal government, in actual fact, is at the center, does not really generate VAT. VAT is local to the environment where consumption happens, because VAT is a consumption tax and all of that. So I think what this bill is trying to do is to address that and take a little bit from the federal government and give to the federating units, the state and the local government. But that's not just the real issue. I think the controversy around the VAT in this bill, which is just an item on the entire bill, is generating these controversies because most of the state governors probably are not carrying their commissioner of finance or the head of their tax body along to know that this will actually benefit them the more. What has been obtainable with the VAT law before is that derivation is only 20%, while population takes 50%, and then the remaining 30% is on non-equity. No, equity is 50%, and then the 30% is on population. So, but what this is trying to address now is that derivation is taking 60%. And derivation in this sense, if you go back to that act, I think is a section 22, subsection 12 of the proposed act. It clearly states that derivation will be clearly stated when filing returns to show where VAT is derived, where the consumption actually takes place, not where the headquarters of the company is, where filing takes place and payment is made, which is what is currently obtainable. So that means states with larger population, with more consumption, being fair to that state, should get more. And what this will also do is to engender competition among states. You want to stimulate economic activity where there will be more consumption, and then you earn more by VAT. The sharing formula currently, or as proposed, is 55 to state, 10 to federal government, and then 35 to the local government. But I think the committee is also proposing that from the state, a 5% equalization will be set aside, where they look at what you're getting from the old system. If this is going to disadvantage you a little bit, from that 5%, they make sure they equalize it, that at the end of the day, you're not getting anything less than you used to get. So I think it's a bill that every state should support. It's not something to oppose, because at the end of the day, the states and the local government are getting more for it. You know, so while looking at the controversy, you found out that, okay, you see what the northern governors are saying. Some of them saying that, you know, if, for example, Lagos is where Lagos generates a lot, Lagos, Ogun State, of course, the Southwest. Look at the current NBS statistics where they said how much the Southwest is bringing onto the table. And you just wonder, okay, these northern governors are saying that if by virtue of you're saying this is what is going to be obtainable, it's not going to favor us. But some has also said this is like a wake-up call for the northern governors to make sure that they can be able to generate enough from their own region. What's your take on that? Okay, there's a misconception, and that's why the controversy. Well, there's a whole lot coming from the Southwest. But what this bill is proposing is that it is not where those companies are based. The North has the largest population. It means there's more consumption happening there. So this is going to be more consumption. If you say more consumption, for example, let's look at alcoholic beverages, for example. There is more consumption in the South than in the North. Alcohol is only an item. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yeah, really, that's the religion aspect or side to the northern Nigeria and all of that. And then there's nothing anybody can do about that. But other items that are consumed more will generate VAT where they are consumed. And where the population is where people consume the most. And like you rightly pointed out, it's a wake-up call to every state. Stimulate economic activity in your state, create economic activity, make people consume, make funds available to people, let them have disposable income to buy more and consume more, and then you earn more at the end of the day. Let's look at what the bill is also trying to address. That means that it's taking the ball straight down to the rich table. And it simply means that you look at the mechanisms at which this is going to address all of the tax reforms, or this particular tax reforms. For example, it's saying that, you know, putting mechanism to ensure that individual customer for a financial institution who has accumulation of 25 million or less, or more rather, to corporate government, who has 100 million to do to, that means that they are trying to say that the rich should not invade tax, which has always been the issue all along. How do you think that? Do you really think that this can actually, you know, bridge that gap? Okay, the direct answer to your question is yes and no. Okay, I looked at the bill. I think it's a section 28 of that bill that you're referring to, where it talks about information from bank, financial institution, insurance, and all of or stockbroker and other financial institution. And then I read it thoroughly, and I saw a lacuna. Nigerians are smart. They can take advantage of that. What that section is trying to do is to bring more people into the tax net, where you can't the financial institution has this obligation quarterly to file a return, listing everybody who meet that threshold. Now, the point is, it's not saying aggregation of all the inflow into your various accounts. Yeah. It's just a bank account, which means each bank has a responsibility to file. A smart person will have 10 accounts. It has an inflow of over 25 million in a month. It puts 5 here, puts 3 here, and all. Those banks don't have such obligations to file such return. And at the end, the person is missed along the line. You can't pick the person. So I expect that bill will see an aggregation of whatever bank account you have, especially using BVN. Your BVN will pull everything you have and then make, but now it's saying the bank will file that return. So it's not aggregating it, it's transaction per bank.
So how do we bridge that gap where your BVN should be able to, give us the actual?
It's simple. Your BVN is there. A pool on your BVN shows every account you are signatory to.
Exactly.
And then can aggregate whatever inflow into those accounts and all of that. And sincerely, the rich are not paying taxes in Nigeria. You see, the politicians is only when they want to contest election and they make TCC compulsory. Yeah. They run to a tax office, pay a certain amount and get that. But in real fact, the lifestyle they live, the tax they pay doesn't justify such lifestyle.
Another thing that I probably want you to help me unpack is part of the bill that talks about royalties. And I really want to understand what it means. But I was looking at, I didn't really understand it, where you talked about under the new bill, one can assess the royalties on the currency at which, if, for example, if you are trading on that currency, that means that you can't assess the royalties either on that currency or in Nigerian currency. I really try to understand.
The challenge with the former bill is that payment of royalty or certain payments on foreign currencies has to be made in that particular currency. But now it allows you to either assess or make payment in Naira, which makes conversion, access to forex and all of that, no longer a problem for you to make your tax payment and all of that. So that's what that tries to address.
So let's also look at what the benefits of this would do for the larger percentage of Nigerians. For example, some persons don't even know that, okay, this does not even apply to them. For example, I was checking up the bill, and if, for example, you earn 800,000 naira annually, that means that you're exempt from that bill.
In fact, if you earn 840 and slightly above,
that means that you are exempted.
You are not paying tax. You are not paying anything at all. Totally exempted.
Okay.
Formerly, when it was 30,000, even if at the end of the day you don't have an accessible profit after this thing, you're still charged 1% on your gross. But this time around, you're totally exempted. So on the long run, not even on the long run, the short run, medium and long run, those who earn less will pay either less or totally exempted. The amendment to the Personal Income Act was in 2017. I think then minimum wage was 18,000. The value of 18,000 to the value of 30,000 when that minimum wage was increased was probably higher in terms of value, not nominal value, I mean real value. But what that does is that since the act wasn't amended, it pushed people who were ordinarily to pay less to be paying more, though in real terms they were earning less. Now the 70,000 minimum wage today has less value than the 30,000 Nigerians were earning 2 years ago. So invariably, if you don't put up an act like this to exempt them, you are further pushing them into by taking more from them. And at the end of the day, the equity side of tax is not there. At the end of the day, you see that the poor proportionally pay more than the rich. But what this seems to want to address is that the rich should pay a little bit more if you look at the last band, it's 25%. Progressively, as you earn more, you pay 25% of what you earn.
Because that's progressively VAT is what I also want to look at. Because from now, what our bill also seems to look at is from 7.5% to 10% in 2025, then from 12.5% between 2026 to 2029. Wouldn't that stiffen the economic space of people who really are doing business, but this tax wouldn't that stiffen?
One of the qualities of a good tax system is adequacy, the ability to take enough to provide social services and all of that. The increase in VAT, I think 7.5 currently is one of the lowest rate you have all over the world. But I don't think anything is wrong with that, looking at also what we earn in terms of minimum wage and then what our per capita income
But
is.
it's not corresponding if you look at it.
It's actually not corresponding. What I mean in essence is a 7.5% VAT today, to me, should be maintained, maybe for the next 2 years. And then let's see all the effort of government, the reforms and all of that in the economy, and the economy begins to yield more, and then people have the ability to pay more. That's what I feel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akande. Really nice to have you.
Thank you so much.
I hope we'll be able to just look at some of these things.
Yeah.
Thank you.